Consciousness is understanding. That's what it is. It is the shape of understanding. Consciousness is the attachment of understanding to that which is determinate. You attach understanding to that which is determinate, which consciousness perceives as being space and time. But space and time have no meaning unless understanding is attached. This attachment of understanding is the actualization of conscious states, the actualization of potentialities, which need not exist necessarily, but nonetheless are actualized by God in order to attach understanding to a particular spatio-temporal form, material form, a determinate form. This is why consciousness needs the material as the object which understanding attaches to and extracts meaning from. And ultimately, God knows that this object is just a projection of his own mind in the form of the uncreated Immaculate Conception, but nonetheless is totally determinate in its projection as what it is. And then in the world, in the contingent states, it's the spatio-temporal world that we perceive, the mama matrix. It grounds the dream, in a sense. And evolving is all about gaining different kinds of conceptual distance from it. Conceptual distance. Distance in understanding, such that one can perceive it better and therefore it reflects more what it is to you. Consciousness is understanding itself. God exists because God's that other, we think the spatial temporal world generates us. God is the spirit, if you will, the consciousness that actually grants that material form the light of consciousness and activates its qualia state, its understanding form. But the material is both at the heart of God, emitting the light and reflecting it. Because it is the projection of the mama matrix from God's own mind, but as a determinate thing. And each moment in consciousness constrains what it is, what it can be in the past and the future. The future, maybe we've been wrong in thinking of the past as determinate. And rather, time is a wibbly-wobbly, shimbly-shambly Doctor Who thing, which has strange attractors built in that are kind of inevitable mystically, but otherwise time is looser than we thought in terms of what the past is. We don't know. You know, what direction's it all going? Why can't we think outside the box? What are we trying to preserve by maintaining the absolute determinacy of the past? What are we preserving in consciousness? Can we understand it maybe differently, better? Because consciousness is understanding. Consciousness is the attachment of understanding to a determinate logical form. Literally a determinate logic gate. And consciousness attaches to it by attaching understanding to it and therefore sees what it is in meaning. Because there's no meaning just in the absolute abstraction of just the determinate, which has no meaning. But understanding attaches to it and needs the concept of determinacy at the base, matter, from which to extract meaning. And this is why human beings are so radically different than everything else. Because the whole thing is the attachment of the understanding of the I, self-consciousness, to material. And that only happens in self-consciousness. So self-consciousness is what was always the more real thing, to the point where can a conscious state really exist if it doesn't have attachment to the I? It merely exist. That is, the I can come in and kind of feel what it was like, kind of know what it was like to be a bat, but never for sure know what it is like to be a bat, and therefore can never validate the fact whether or not a bat in and of itself can truly experience. Or can it only experience vicariously through the feeling of the Holy Ghost into it? The light of consciousness that bleeds in and out of the spatio-temporal determinacy to extract meaning. The extraction of meaning from the determinate. All meaning comes to God through the uncreated Immaculate Conception as the thing from which God extracts meaning. And therefore, it's shared by the Father and the Son, the same object, and therefore the same meaning source. And this is how abstract conceptual reality is structured. And what we call the determinate mother is the mama matrix of this world. It's determinate to God, and He looks at it, but it exists in a larger space than we understood before. Perhaps this is why gravity seems so weak, is because it's actually operating in a greater possibility space, which consciousness is narrowing down at each moment into one determinate spatio-temporal object, which constrains what the past and future can be. And you, through understanding, are that attachment. And therefore you are what it means. Language is the articulation of meaning through one's geometric control of intention. You're just trying to convey intention when you use language, but you're trying to do it in a very complex, abstract way. But ultimately, intention is language. All intention is a kind of language. And I think busting out to higher levels is to realize that that's the case even when you don't have to articulate it in hyper abstract terms. I obviously love that game, but breaking through emotionally might be to convey intention in a much simpler way and have much simpler intentions towards life and towards each other, and discover what language really is, which is the communication of emotional states and feelings. Emotions need to become porous so that we can feel each other, feel what's going on. That's language. And verbalization into the syntactical structure of language compartmentalizes in a way that cuts off emotions to a certain extent. And therefore understanding is very conceptual at that level. Understanding attaches in a very conceptual way, as opposed to a way more of feeling. We need to be guided by feeling, but we have to get our moral sense in order first before we're allowed to release into the discernment of feeling. because you have to realize that the feeling you're supposed to be after is love, a very particular feeling and sensibility. And language is a key, but not necessarily hyper abstract complex language, but really using simple words over and over again, like love, 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 give, free, joy, and just letting the meme of those words seep the emotions out as we understand consciousness in itself better, because we can see how consciousness is understanding. And if you take it seriously as that and think about what that implies about what's possible and what we can do and what reality is, then you can allow yourself to start to explore how to improve feeling and how to bring the kingdom of heaven on earth. It is here now. Let us discover it. I am here to find it with you. That is why I am here. That is my only reason for existence. That's why I am who I am. Because God is love.